Actually, there is perhaps some underlying value to Bitcoin. It has to do with startups in the tech world. Explain your thinking on this, Aaron.
Sure. There's clearly underlying value here. Some of the world's top developers for the last 5 years have been working in the crypto space, and we put in tens of millions of developer hours, billions of dollars, and we've created this thing that I sort of compare to internet startups back in the early 90s before there had been any IPOs. Tremendous value there. Hard to estimate what it is, hard to estimate who's going to capture it, but it's there, and I think Bitcoin is the first major mainstream financial instrument that gives you exposure to this space.
But so, Aaron, this is what I wasn't sure about from your piece. Back in the old dot-com days, when you had these stock options that were issued and they raised a lot of money and they started new companies, underlying the option was a right down the road to have a stream of income from the underlying asset. That's not true here. When you buy a Bitcoin and you give money to somebody to start something up, you don't get a right to participate in the revenue or the profits from the company.
Well, I think you're thinking in modern terms. Back in the early 90s, it wasn't clear that these companies were going to make any money. It wasn't clear. They didn't have any intellectual property. They didn't have any plans to get revenue, much less earnings. It was just faith in the idea that the internet was going to be big, and if you gave your money to Mark Anderson or you gave your money to some of these early developers, that somehow or another you would get rewarded, and in fact you did. That doesn't mean you'll get rewarded this time. You know, it doesn't always work that way. But there is this value. There's a code base out there. There's a tremendous code base. I believe trustless value exchange will be very big on the internet. I have no idea who's going to make money from it. If anybody, it may just be that users use it free, the way we get email, the way we get all of the basic internet protocols like HTTP and FTP. All remains to be seen, but it's a very exciting area. Are you long Bitcoin? Yes, I'm along Bitcoin and other courses, yes, and I have been since 2012. I've always been a fan. I'm not tremendously. I put 2% of my portfolio in crypto. That's my feeling as to what a sensible allocation is.
Well, I think we're all struggling here in general to understand how you value Bitcoin and what it should be valued at. And the latest came from Dr. Kramer. He's the chief economist over at UniCredit, and I want to read to you what he wrote in his note today. He said, in the G7 countries, the sum of central bank money amounts to over $5 trillion. This contrasts with only 21 million Bitcoin at the most. So in mathematical terms, one Bitcoin is worth $257,000, and if you do just M1 supply, it's 1 million. Okay. What do you think?
I think that's very 2012, 2013. That's how we were thinking about it, and frankly, I wrote similar things back then. Bitcoin is never going to be a major transaction. There are better cryptocurrencies for it.
So M1s is not a good indicator, right, for example.
And existing companies are getting in and going to compete very strongly with it. Bitcoin's value as a transaction currency, as a store of value, I think is just not in the cards. Where I think it's a financing currency. I think it's a way to get exposure to the crypto space. People will use it to put money into it. Hopefully someday people will use it to take money out, although you may be correct that there never will be any money coming out. And that's its value. And by the way, I have to disagree with Scott about the opening on this CBOE. And I'm talking to developers. I'm talking to the crypto. Remember, these people are half of them are teenagers. None of them are over 30. They're very suspicious of finance. They went into crypto space because they didn't believe in crypto finance. In traditional finance. So the CBOE opens, immediately its website crashes. Now that didn't have anything to do with the trading, but you know, for technically sophisticated people, that looks bad. Then they hit limit twice. You know, this just does not look like a good opening. I think this is a battle for the hearts and the minds of these developers. And so far, we're losing.
Well, the good news is we're off and running. At least we're going to find out.
Hey, at least the limits worked.
Yeah, they did, exactly.
It was triggered. Right? It wasn't
to a financial person, nobody went broke. All the contracts went through. But to a technical person, this looks like, you know,
sloppy,
old technology ruining good ideas.
Wild, Wild West. Okay, Aaron Brown, author of The Poker Face of Wall Street. Thank you very much, Aaron, for being with us.